All right, welcome to week 3. This is going to be a fun week. We're going to do our color palettes and identity package. But first, let's talk about logos a little bit. Anybody ever seen this logo before? No. Some people saw it on the behind the scenes tour. If you came to campus, they have it up on the wall somewhere. This is the original logo for this school. And if you know anything about Full Sail, since you're attending, uh, the the business model of Full Sail is we help you overcome obstacles to achieve the career of your dreams. So you can see the message being conveyed here. It's got a flying ship. It's like a galleon flying over obstacles and soaring up to the clouds, like taking you to your career of your dreams. So it kind of makes sense, right? And then Full Sail, the words Full Sail makes you feel like full steam ahead. I'm heading for my dream career. Now, so those are some good things about the idea behind the logo. What's not good about this logo from a visual standpoint? Too many things, Ray. Yes, there's a lot going on here, right? We've got 3D type, metallic, reflective 3D metal type, an outline on the type. We've got a very detailed, complex illustration. It's busy looking. Can you imagine this on a business card? It would just fall to pieces if you made it small enough to go on a business card. So it wasn't very practical, right? So we changed, and this is the next logo. So they got rid of the ship. What I heard was they had a dispute with Disney, but I don't know if that's official. Um, and they decided to use a plane. A plane also soars over difficulties and takes you to your dream job on cloud nine. The difference between a flying ship and a plane is ships don't really fly, so there is something magical about that and different, and planes actually do fly. So there's a bit of a disconnect there. And we still have the words Full Sail as the name of the school. So a couple of issues. What what's the problem with this one visually? This color scheme doesn't mesh well, right, Morgan? It is really kind of harsh in a way. Um, yeah, Amelia, explain association a little more. It hurts your eyes, Cassidy. Yes, that red is so bright. It's basically a primary color palette with bright yellow, bright red, and a sort of aqua blue. The Full Sail on the plane. Yeah, so one of my campus students pointed out, it's like there's all this color, but the plane, which is kind of the focal point, is gray. So kind of inverted. And I can't stand this little tip right here that just pokes out at the top. So still, it also has this sort of Art Deco look, which is kind of out of left field. I don't know what that would have to do with Full Sail. Maybe because of the plane, the era of the plane, but I think it's like a plane from the 50s. Um, so, and a lot of extraneous stuff going on. So we moved on to this logo. So we deleted all the extraneous stuff. Now we've just got Full Sail, which is the name, brand name, and then Real World Education is the tagline, and we have the plane. What's not working in this one? Yes, Morgan, the plane covers up too much of the word, especially if you drop this down small, like on a business card. You wouldn't be able to read the words. And if you didn't know what they said, you might not be able to read them at all. So grouping everything together like this isn't a good plan. This takes us to where we are today. So you can see this icon logo type setup working to solve a lot of problems. Now, the proportions of this are really pretty well done. It works on white or dark background. Branding, full sail, category, university. So there's hierarchy in the type there. This is the kind of pattern we want you to follow with your logos. They have a vertical and a horizontal. I've only seen the horizontal on the website, but I've been told to use it elsewhere. So Omar Martinez, who's doing, who helps me with the campus class, he's doing a whole bunch of materials for the, what do you call it? It just went out of my head. Where you can buy all the stuff. The locker. What's it called, Sabrina?
Platinum. The hanger?
The hanger. Yeah, that's it. So he's doing bandanas and hats, and he's using the Full Sail logo and all this stuff. Really cool stuff. I'm hoping he does a little presentation about his process on that. Yes, thank you, Brandon. The hanger. Brandon added. All right, so moving on. We're into week 3, identity packages and color palette. I think you'll find that this is a little more focused week. You're really doing only one thing and creating a color palette with it. So this is what it looks like. We're doing an identity package. Now, the term identity package is something that all graphic designers know. It typically refers to business card, letterhead, and envelopes. These are sort of the key items that people need. They still need these, but they probably also need like a YouTube cover image, a Facebook cover image. So you could include all those things in identity package nowadays. But they still need letterhead and they still need envelopes. I'm still doing those for clients every time I get one. So this is what you're going to design. Business card, letterhead, and envelope. This is student work. And what you're looking to do is to not only use your logo effectively, but to create a sort of brand story, to add elements to all these items so that it feels cohesive and branded. And I'm going to go into detail about that. All right, so identity, you know, is sort of, if you think about brands are kind of the idea, and identity is the expression of the idea. So if you think about, for instance, Disney, what comes to mind when I say Disney? What image? A princess, Morgan. Mickey Mouse, yeah, I say Mickey Mouse is pretty much the primary thing that people think about, those Mickey ears. So if you think about that, that is not a logo really. It's just sort of an expression of the brand, and they use it in all different kinds of ways, from little hats, and they have it on signage. They use the silhouette of the ears in all kinds of ways. Because of the drawing of the ears, really just 3 circles. It's extremely powerful graphic to be able to use in all different ways. In fact, if you go south of Disney on I-4, you can see they have high tension power line poles that are shaped like Mickey ears. They actually built a solar array to power the parks in the shape of Mickey ears. So it's sort of a powerful image that expresses the brand's part of their identity. Other parts of their identity are all the different brands of the park, the different characters, the fact that they call the people who work there cast members, not employees. So you can express lots of different ways. If you look at Best Buy, you see the guys in the blue shirt with the little yellow logo, and that tells you they work there. There's signage throughout the store that sort of ties it together. Here is a project done by Michael Beirut at Pentagram, and it's Bobby's Burger Palace. You can see the burger, right? So like a bun, lettuce, and meat. But it sets up a color palette that they use throughout the store, inside in the interior, on the signage, on all the packaging, on the business card. So it creates a cohesive look and feel throughout. Yeah, it's Bobby's, not Bob's. Yeah, and I think this preceded the show, so just so you realize. Here's another company. Now, if you look at this, we've got outdoor banners, interior signage, a PowerPoint presentation, printed materials, a billboard. All these things are different. They have different messages, but there's a cohesive look to them all. They feel like they belong together. They have a common visual language, what I would call a family resemblance. And this is something you're going to try to achieve in your work. Now, tell me, what do you think are the elements that are being used here to make these things all tie together? Is Christina saying the color scheme? The color, yeah. The color and patterns, hierarchy in the color. Well, they're using gradients, right? So once they've established gradients, they're using them consistently throughout, right? They've got a limited color palette, but using these gradients. They're also using these knocked out white graphic elements. They're different elements, but they have the same sort of look and feel, right? Simple, yes. All right, here's a different brand, Bespoke Trading Company, and what is this company doing to create a cohesive look to all their work? They've got this forest image, yeah, and they're using it over and over. So some consistent imagery. Yeah, the typography, that's a big part of it. Yeah, you want to have consistent typography. You don't want the type to change from piece to piece. The texture in the background. So they're using sort of natural looking paper, cardboard stock, uncoated, nothing shiny, nothing pure white. It's nice and simple. Even this cotton thread. I would say if some of their keywords would be natural, authentic, things like that, right? So how do you create a great identity? If you think of your brand as a person and how you're going to dress them, build them out. Here are some people that represent some brands. Anybody know which one of these people went to prison? Martha. Yes, Morgan. Martha Stewart. She went to prison for insider trading and did her stint, came out, and really didn't talk about it much. Went on being consistent in her brand expression, who she is. She comes across as a friendly neighbor who makes cupcakes, but she's a woman in charge of a billion-dollar media company, very successful, very powerful, but she keeps her brand very consistent and very authentic in a certain way. If anybody's seen, she did a show with Snoop Dogg. They did a show together. So the way that works is each one of them has a really clearly established brand. So they can work together, they can be together because neither one would sort of absorb the other and they sort of play off each other in a fun way. All right, so as you design these elements, you are going to look at different areas of visual exploration. These are some key things to look at. First of all, nature. How is nature a part of your brand or not a part of it? If your brand's very artificial, maybe just knowing that helps you sort of figure out what it should look like. But maybe there are natural elements you want to bring in. Texture, there's all sorts of textures, stone, wood, bark, sand. You can think about texture in the background of some items that may help establish your brand a certain way. Patterns are super powerful. Now, in the course of doing your logo development, you might have created other elements that you could turn into a pattern or take pieces of your logo, turn them into patterns, add a bit of patterning to your pieces, your identity package, and it helps to brand it further. Paper texture. So we're not going to actually print these, but you could simulate a certain kind of paper texture like that Bespoke Trading Company did with a sort of background, maybe some natural look or different kind of paper texture that you want to have. Then you have graphic elements like borders, dingbats, little pieces that sort of help tell the brand story that you can add in different areas. And then of course, color. We're going to talk in depth about color, but you are not restricted like you were in the hero portrait. You can use gradients, you can use many colors, we're going to give you some ideas of how to come up with a palette. Thoughts or questions at this moment? Just provided a lot of information. All right, I'm going to move on. All right, Lucy's Fried Chicken. So this is another pentagram project by Michael Beirut. What do you see here? Like, what is this brand like? What would you eat there? What do you think? Plain Jane. All right, Mom and Pops. Yeah, it has a certain down home feeling, right? Bland. Okay, it's a well designed logo. Kind of makes me think of Coca-Cola. Anybody get that? All right, here's the neon sign. So more information. Christina said down south. Yeah, I agree. What will be some keywords you would associate with this brand now that you've seen the neon sign? It's like Hooters. Good looking fried chicken. uh, to me, a bit scandalous. Okay, Morgan. Um, so this image of this girl seems very old fashioned to me. She looks like something from the 40s, like maybe a pinup from World War II era. Yeah, Christina said pinup. So to me, a couple of keywords that come into mind are retro and not maybe scandalous, but maybe a little hedonistic or sinful. Can you think of reasons why those two words would be good associations for a fried chicken restaurant? Yes, Morgan, fried chicken is bad for you. So a little bit sinful is probably okay. We're not selling health food. How about retro? Old school, yeah. Well, I think that there's a universal belief that food used to be better. Yeah, definitely retro. It used to be better. Grandma's recipe is the best one, right? So with those two associations, it kind of helped the brand, I think. When you look at the items, there's definitely a retro feeling here. They've got this wood, old school wood paneling. They've got some typography that looks very sort of retro. They've got this old-fashioned chicken there. And this like looks like an old Coca-Cola logo. So I think there's definitely that retro association. All right, here's uh, Bone Daddy's Barbecue. Would you eat there? What's the association with this one? Fresh butchered meat, says Brandon. It makes you think of New Orleans, Morgan. Yeah, definitely made me think of New Orleans too. The artwork is sort of what we call primitive American artwork. Spicy. Look at the color palette. What does it make you think of? It's a limited color palette. Makes you hungry, right? It's red, so like ketchup and mustard or meat, and then a little black char maybe. Nothing is like stark white in this. It's all got a kind of smoky feel. You can almost smell it. And this is one of the problems with our scheduled time for the live session. We end up being really hungry by the time we're done. Now, if you're a vegetarian, you'd look at this and say, I know I don't want to eat there. It's pretty clearly clear about what it's about, right? All right, here's Swing Beer. This is a beer company. What do you think of this? What comes across when you see this? Circus, number one answer. Right. Circus. Well, now I don't really know what circus has to do with beer. So, yeah, root beer feel, and maybe for kids instead of adults. So it's a bit confusing. It's well branded, like it's clearly branded, but maybe the brand is not the right brand. You see what I'm saying? Here's Kate Peters' photography. What kind of photography do you think she does? Portrait, abstract, could be a lot of things, right? It's not really clear what she does. This is really well designed, but it's not particularly branded. Classic homes, maybe. It's not clear. So you want to have a brand that tells people a little more of the story about who you are, like that Bone Daddies. That tells you a lot. Yeah, not specific enough, Cassidy. Right. Um, you want to be consistent. Let's look at some more examples. So here's an identity package. This is for an architect. You see the way this is set up. So first you got letterhead. Letterhead is a frame for a letter. Nothing goes in the middle. That's where the letter, the letter is going to be printed. The logo is the hero. You want that to be the prominent thing that you see. They've actually organized the information nicely and neatly at the bottom. They put a little pipe here to sort of as a little holder, which is nice. The back of this page is printed flood blue, which is kind of distinctive. The envelope has the logo in the upper left. The return address is on the back flap, but you need to have that. The business card, they use the logo icon by itself on the back, which is cool. You could do that. On the front, logo, name of the person, their title, and the rest of the information is gathered at the bottom. So you want to create hierarchy in all these items as you create them. Here's another architect, Finkel Williams. You can see their logo is kind of like an FW, and they, what we call blind embossed it in the corner. It's like printed without ink. Yeah, the yellow is very distinctive, Morgan. The return address is on the back left. This is actually what we call a booklet envelope. And then there's the icon. On the business card, they got the full logo on the back and just the person's name and title on the front. You can do that. You can split it up that way too. Lucky Bucket Brewing. So this has sort of a retro look. Their logo is kind of like a wax seal with an LB in it. So they've got other items like this little ribbon and this ribbon that give that retro look. And yeah, and it's nice typography. This one is in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's a motion design company. And they got this kind of backwoods look. They cleverly use sort of like ordinary office materials to make this kind of distinctive, authentic kind of look. Nothing is coated, glossy, or fancy. They've got this kind of crinkled, textured brown color, and then this icy blue makes me think of Minnesota. Same design firm. They're using a border on this letterhead, but it doesn't go right to the edge. Usually that's not a good way to go with a letterhead, but it's a very subtle border, very fancy texture that sort of matches the style of the logo, which has this gold foil. And then there's the band of the texture behind the name. This one uses a pattern nicely that sort of almost wraps the card a little bit. Again, the distinctive color for this. They put the return address information vertically. That's allowed. It's different, but it's interesting. Carthage Stoneworks. So they have a sort of retro look. They've got this, what looks like a rubber stamp red symbol. They've got two versions of that. Their logo is just a word mark, but with these little hammers. But everything has a sort of retro look because, as it says, you know, experience is really important. That's how they market themselves. Here's a dentist. What do you guys think of the dentist? Yeah, it's kind of an interesting color scheme. Now, some people have a problem with yellow with a dentist, but this is a very bright yellow. And then they've got kind of a mouthwash color with white outlines. Not a lot of black here. Even these dark elements, I think they're sort of a dark blue, this dark blue color. No black, a little bit of white. And they're also saying some fun, disarming things. Makes you feel comfortable, Morgan, right? Going to the dentist. But they're doing them in sort of serious, it's almost like serious type, but a funny message. This is kind of a clever way to do it. This one is Charleston, naturally for Charleston, South Carolina. Now, it's the natural beauty of Charleston, so all the paper is sort of a natural kind of paper with little bits in it and stuff. But look at this rule at the bottom. It separates the address, return address, from the rest of the letter. What do these lines look like to you? Feathers, pinstripes. Pinstripes are usually very straight. To me, it looks like water. It's just sort of the gentle bay water. When he stands them upright, they look like seagrass. And yeah, John pointed out this looks like watercolor, kind of a subtle green background there, a little green logo, and yes. And Cassidy said the business card, they look like leaves, like you would find this on the beach or something. This is blind embossed. It's pressed into the paper without ink. And you can see the logo is actually, it looks like two leaves, but it looks like a crane. Yes, sets them apart. It's definitely not Las Vegas. This is all the stuff that you could have on a business card. And I once had a business card that had probably nearly all this on it. Not for me, it was a company I was working for. But you really want to keep it simple. So the person's name and title and the company name will be in the logo. The rest of the information, address, phone number, email, can be sort of grouped together and kind of out of the way. Keep the typography simple. Just try to keep it simple. Be very deliberate with what you add. Just don't start throwing shapes in and try, like doing all kinds of crazy stuff. You want to like think, what are the branded elements I want to use, and use them, and don't add a lot of effects to your type because it's really just trying to communicate information. Letterhead, and you're going to use a template. So the paper color, it could be a color, but whatever it is, you have to be able to print black on top of it because letterhead goes into a laser printer and laser printers can only print black. They can't print white. So if you make it like dark purple letterhead, it won't work. Just keep that in mind. Envelope, up here is where the stamp goes. Down here, they put a barcode. If you put a design here, the post office will put a white sticker over it so they can print the barcode. The back, this is a pointed flap. There's also a square flap, different kinds of envelopes. A letterhead gets the logo, the address, the phone numbers, the web address. An envelope will get the logo, the address, maybe the web address. So it's kind of keeping it simple. This is the template you're going to be using. It's linked to your InDesign document, so you're going to open it through InDesign. This piece right here is a deconstructed envelope, and you will not need to use this for the assignment. We are providing that. It's just sort of an extra thing that we had, and we threw it in case you ever want to make your own envelopes from scratch. But you will do the front of the envelope, the back of the envelope, the letterhead, and business card, horizontal and vertical. You will not use this deconstructed envelope for this project, but you now have this in case you ever need to build an envelope from scratch. And for instance, if you wanted an envelope to go to press and it actually had color that went all the way to the edge, you would need a template like this in order to provide that to the printer. So this is just one of the little side bonus pieces we're giving you. You'll keep this for 5 years until someday you'll realize you need it, and then you'll have it. Sabrina, have you ever had to lay out an envelope like this, like for conversion?
Only in a graphic design class in college.
Really? I had to do it just recently for somebody. But I mean, I can't think of the time before that that I had to do it, like maybe 15 years ago.
Yeah, this was an entire identity package for a clothing company that one of my graphic design classes was, and
Yeah,
we had to do everything, business card, letterhead, envelope, and we actually had to make the shopping bag like that you would,
like
and it was,
physically make it.
we had to print everything, and it was crazy.
Yeah.
We had to do like the tags that would go on the clothing labels, and
Yes.
yeah,
Now you can do all digital mock-ups of that, lickety split,
yeah,
but you
yeah,
have to actually make.
yeah, the X-Acto knife, yeah, everything.
Yes, I've done that many times. Yeah, Morgan. So so when you print something, I'll just explain this. So there's a little red line on the outside. So there are three lines in it. There's the trim, the bleed, trim, and safety. So the safety is where you put, it's like your margin. Everything needs to be inside of that to be sure that it prints. The trim is where they cut the paper or they cut the business card. And the bleed is where if you had color that went to the edge, it would have to go beyond the trim, past where it cuts, just a little bit to what we call the bleed area. And that ensures that when the cutter hits it, there's not a white gap because it jogs around a little bit as it's cutting. So that's how it works. So as you design these and you think it's in the instructional video about how to use the template, but I'm just reiterating what it says in there. So, all right, let's talk about color. So my recommendation is that you design your elements using whatever colors you feel like using. Remember, you have to use your assigned color, but then you're going to find other colors to go with it. Once you get your designs looking the way you want, you're going to spec out your colors. So it's not a matter of picking colors and then not being able to change them. You should change as much as you need to going through the design process. Once you get settled and you feel like this is my final design, then you're going to document your color palette. Now, this page in your template is set up for you to do what we call, it's not a color palette, it's a color exploratory. And I believe I changed the name on the template to say that. So this does not dictate your color palette. Yes, Cassidy, your assigned color is the spot color. Well, it could be a spot color or process color, but you're using your assigned color along with other colors. All right, so this is just an exploratory to see how your color reacts in different color relationships. So you may say, oh, I like pentagram, but I'm going to take this green out and change it with something else. You don't have to stick to any of these. And I encourage you with a full heart to not go monochromatic. That doesn't really explore color the way you want to in color theory. Monochromatic means that you're really just using one hue and sort of deciding on tints and shades to create contrast. We want you to really explore all aspects of color. So steer away from monochromatic. I mean, you could use some monochromatic colors if you add in some others as well. This is what you're going to spec out. And actually in your template, it's inverted so that the RGB is at the bottom. Pantone first, then CMYK, then RGB. And the reason for that is Pantone has less colors than these other two. So if you started with RGB, you could create colors that are not available in CMYK or Pantone. Now, when you lay these out, there's a strategy here. This is student work. So this is the assigned color, this blue. This is the complement, but sort of a tint of the complement, a shade of the complement, a darker shade of the complement, and then a darker shade of the original. So there's variation in both value, light and dark, and hue. in this palette. It worked pretty well. So you must have 5 colors in your palette. You might not use all 5 right away, but I want you to come up with a palette that has 5 colors. You can have more than 5, Ray, yes. And no black, no white. White and black don't count as part of your color palette. Now, I say that, and every month, students give us black and white in their color palette. Here's what I want you to just think about as you go forward in your career as a designer. Anytime something is black or white, question it. Should it be black and white? Maybe it should be a color. Sometimes you can take a kind of darkened down color and use that in a place of black, and it gives a much more richer, more thoughtful kind of look to everything. Looks more handcrafted, special. As you think about your colors, look at your creative brief and read those keywords. Your 10 keywords can be a guide to your color palette. If it says bold, strong, powerful, and you have all pastel colors, you're probably not on track. Make sense? 5 colors, and that's generally considered a color palette, but obviously more complex brands have a lot more colors. These are the levers of color that you're making use of. Google, what does that mean, John? Google. Google your keywords?
No, what I was saying is that Google has the complex color palette. They use different colors all the time, especially in their logo, because it changes every day.
Yes. Now, when you get to be a company as big as Google, you can play with your identity quite a bit.
Yeah.
Small companies starting out have to be very slavishly consistent in their brand.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So hue, where you are on the color wheel, saturation, how much white is in the color, brightness, how much black is in the color, and temperature. So you're thinking about all these aspects of color as you work on your color palette. Do I want a warm palette or a cool palette? Do I want a balance of bright light colors and some dark ones? And then, how do the hues work together? Look for inspiration from nature, from great images, artists. This is the work of Annie Leibovitz for Disney. She did these practical sets. This was a practical set. Fashion. So the world of fashion is full of color trends and interesting things. You may say, I'm not really that into fashion. Well, now you are, because you're a designer. You got to look at this stuff. Every year I watch the award shows to see what everyone's wearing. This is the 2018 Oscars. Does anybody know why they're all wearing black? Yeah, no idea. It was something called the Time's Up movement, protesting sexual harassment. So the idea was we're going to wear black. It's almost like in mourning, but it made a big statement, right? Now it's still Hollywood, so there's some bling. There's a bit of metallics going on, right? No one remembers that. From now on, you're required to watch all the award shows. If there are some, I don't know if there will be this year. This is 2019. So color came back, some kind of very dark, saturated colors. Can you drink? That's up to your parents. Here, and of course, the star of the show. Anybody remember this from the 2019 Golden Globes? Yeah, it was really distinctive. This color stood out. It was stunning. It really kind of took your breath away. Now, I think that her team really thinks through how to be different. And certainly there's a huge contrast with the red carpet itself. Yeah. This is from this year, 2020, I think. Is think it's this year. I lost my notes. So she went a different direction just to be unpredictable. This is the Oscars 2020. So there's certain lack of color, but metallics are big. Silver and black. What do you guys think? Gaga. Well, yes. Wait, where is she? There. So the point is, you can follow fashion trends and get a sense of where color is going. Matisse said, when I put colors together, they have to join a living chord, like a musical chord or harmony. Very much like, music is sound, sound is vibrating air, color is vibrating light. So there's certain harmonics that you find, that you discover as you go forward. Matisse loved color and did these amazing, incredibly prolific artists. There's just a couple of his works. And then this is a work by Andrew Wyeth, American painter. So this is, instead of being in southern France, we've moved to New England. Anybody ever seen this painting before? Yes, John. Yeah, Christina. The title of this painting is Christina's World. This is Christina Olson, his neighbor, and she could not walk. This painting is most often used as an example of dynamic composition, very high horizon line, and the figure is sort of just pointing to the farmhouse. It's very dramatic when you look at it. Little House on the Prairie. So this is sort of that dead New England winter grass. Wizard of Oz vibe, yeah, the old farm. So this dead grass, do you see the color in here? This is painted on board and he sort of scraped it out to get the grass, but you can see this undulating, rolling color of blue, turquoise, orange, yellow, red, all throughout this grass. It gives the whole painting a sort of richness and life to it. The scene becomes, it's sort of this hyper realism. The sky itself, it's not just a plain white sky. It's got little undulations and shades of blue and green. It's at the Museum of Modern Art in New York if you want to go see it. It's not a big painting. Unlike this is the work of Albert Bierstadt. Bierstadt was a German-American painter who did these large landscape paintings of the American West. He came to the United States in the mid-1800s, went out west and did these huge paintings. They're like 15 feet tall, and it made people want to move out west. Like they showed these in New York, people were captivated. He was part of what they call the Hudson River School, and they had this ability to create this kind of luminosity on the canvas, very bright light. And if you think about the days before electric light, these canvases seem kind of magical. They just sort of glowed. This is his painting of the domes of Yosemite, and it looks just like that today. This is Gauguin. Gauguin was a bank teller until he was 40. His father thought he was a failure because he was supposed to go to law school, but he became a painter and moved to Tahiti. If you look, he loved color, and you can see these floorboards are not just wood. They've got this bounce light with turquoise, orange, pink, this tangerine color, a bit of green bounce light on the feet. And if you see these mangoes, the solidity of these forms, but then the contrasting colors is so beautiful. Yes, Morgan, I agree. All right, so what can you do for inspiration? Look at stuff. Look at people on Behance, on Pinterest. Do research for your inspiration page, and look at color palettes and see how people are using them. As I said in the very beginning of this course, we're hoping to set you on a lifelong task of studying color. everywhere. Steal like an artist, yes. It's okay to steal color palettes, but I want you to know what you're stealing and what you're getting and how you're using it. And I want you to have the skills and ability to manipulate it and change it in any way you want. That's our goal. Anybody can just go on and grab a color palette. Try to be a little more proactive than that. Are other elements allowed with the logo other than colors? Yes, that's what I was talking about earlier. Different graphic elements. I'll give you an example in a little bit. Think about the hierarchy of the colors. When we talk about hierarchy, we have something like the colors have a relationship, like a family relationship. One is the star of the show, which is going to be your assigned color, and then the others are sort of supporting cast. When we think about hierarchy in design, typically that means the biggest thing on the page is the most important. But when it comes to colors, sometimes the smallest thing on the page can be the most important, the focal point to draw you in. You can see it here. You're going to experiment with color palettes. Do lots and lots of options. This is more work by Jessica Heish. You can see this. This would be orange, purple, and green would be a secondary triadic. But instead she uses bright blue and it works. It's different. A primary triadic would be yellow, red, and blue, and instead she's got this light green that kind of works. This is her work for Matilda, the musical. You can see how the background is like a chalkboard, and then Matilda's magic sort of splashes and dances around in the foreground. Good contrast.
This is a great example too, when you were talking about not using like pure black or white, you know, because the chalkboard has that, you know, off black color to it. And then like, you know, it's like an off white for the, you know, where it's kind of creamy.
Yes, just take it a couple steps away from black and suddenly it has a new life, a different kind of life. We use color to organize things by variety, by flavors, varieties of wine, varieties of coffee. So you can think about that as you're going forward. Start with your Pantone specs, then do your CMYK, then RGB. Just a couple more examples. So this is more Jessica Heish work. I love this poster. It has this gradient that goes from a blue to orange, which is complementary colors. Now, typically complementary colors, if you mix them together, you get mud. But this gradient is built really well, so it just feels like sort of almost like warm light hitting this blue letter. You see that? Little touches. Really well done. And I believe this was screen printed too. All right, and I said all this. So let's look at the assignment quick. We're coming down the home stretch here. So this is the week 3 assignment. This says color relationships in your template. This shows you the page you're going to be working on. Here's a video that shows you how to do this part of the assignment. It really isn't difficult, and if you follow the video carefully, you'll be done lickety split with that. Then you're going to work on the identity package. There's the template. You're going to get that through your InDesign document. This is a video showing you how to use the file, how to do it, and what to do. And then you're going to spec out your color palette. As I said, yours is inverted. I haven't switched this image yet. So it's going to be Pantone, CMYK, and then RGB. And there's a video showing you how to do that, how to spec out your colors. As always, if you're having trouble with InDesign, something looks funny, you can go here, check it out, or you can go on Slack and we'll try to help you. And when you're all done, you're going to upload those pages of your identity, of your presentation template. As always, on Thursday, we're going to look at the discussion and give feedback in the critique. So whatever you have done by Thursday, you're going to post that. On Friday, you're going to provide some peer feedback. So make sure you're doing that. I'll just give you an example from a student. So this is Tiffany's. This template looks a little different. It's a little older, but it's a good example. So this is her creative brief. Wasabi chocolate was her product. So it's spicy chocolate. There's her keywords, target audience, inspiration, fonts. So here are her sketches. So she did a lot of sketches, 10 sketches. Typically this would be black and white, but she did color. So we looked at these sketches and we kind of came out with 3 options. This wasabi monster, the little ninja, and the flame. And she had the flame as a W. I didn't like the legibility of that. It made it hard to read. So she sort of refined it a bit. Well, she took it into the test. This is what you just completed, 1, 2, 3. Kind of like this, but without it being the letter W. So she built it like this with wasabi, brand name, category, icons. You can see that configuration works just like the Full Sail logo. Now the wasabi monster didn't die. He found a new life as a secondary element. This is what you're looking for. What is my secondary element that's gonna take, add to the brand story? The color palette. There it is in color. So the wasabi monster now is part of a pattern. Now this is sort of a low contrast pattern, so she's able to put the logo in front, but it gives a distinctive look to the business card. She used the wasabi monster as a little watermark here, kind of subtle. And then on the letterhead, a nice swath of pattern. And there's the monster as a secondary element. It doesn't really diminish the logo because the logo is like positioned clearly sort of standing out like this. And you see there's a nicely done letter that looks very realistic with all the key information organized at the bottom. There's the envelope. She used the pattern again. The pattern gave her a lot of mileage here. And when you look at all the pieces together, they have a cohesive look, right? Cohesive feeling, like they all belong together. That's what you're aiming for. All right, any questions about what you're doing this week? John's good. So the right and left complementary relationships are in Illustrator, and they are relationships that you can, in the video it shows you how to get those. So in the color, what's it called? Help me out, Sabrina. It's the color, the little fan of colors.
It's
been a long day.
It has been a long day. Color guide?
Yeah, the color guide. The color guide has it. And it's a little confusing because right and left don't really mean anything when you're looking down on a circle, so like right and left. But it's in there and it's in the video. So Morgan, you're asking if she combined 2 designs. So what I'm saying is you have to come up with secondary elements. It could be a pattern. It could be a border. It could be a texture. It could be a paper texture along with colors and other elements aside from your logo that help tell the brand story. So the logo is one piece of it, but there's more to it than just putting the logo on a page. All right, so I'm gonna finish the lecture. We're gonna send you off into the night to start designing.